The Zethian Empire fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel above Earth's orbit. 47 worlds had fallen before their warships. 47 civilizations had surrendered within days of seeing the massive vessels hanging in their skies. Earth would be number 48. Warlord Krelvax stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the blue planet rotate below. So much water. His species came from a dry world where water existed only in underground reserves. The sight of oceans covering most of a planet's surface disgusted him. The humans live on the land masses, Navigation Officer Tylesh reported. Only small populations exist on their water vessels. Their technology is primitive. Most of their planet remains unexplored. Krelvax clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. They cannot even map their own world. This will be easy. The invasion fleet consisted of 32 warships. Each vessel stretched 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to level a continent. Their shields could withstand nuclear weapons. Their sensors could detect a single ship from across a solar system. The Zethian Empire had perfected warfare over 10,000 years. Position the fleet above their largest ocean, Krelvax ordered. The Pacific, they call it. We will establish our base there. Water worlds are always peaceful. The inhabitants grow soft. Tylesh hesitated at his station. His claws tapped nervously against the control panel. Warlord, the preliminary scans show unusual readings from the ocean depths. Large life forms. Energy signatures we cannot identify. Sensor errors. Krelvax waved a dismissive claw. Water interferes with our scanning equipment. There is nothing in those primitive seas that can threaten the Empire. On Earth, alarms screamed across every military installation. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood in the command center at Pearl Harbor, watching the alien vessels descend through the atmosphere. Each ship glowed with heat from atmospheric entry. They were not trying to hide. They wanted humanity to see their power. "Get me a count," Morgan demanded. 32 confirmed, Admiral, her communications officer reported. They are taking positions above the Pacific. Altitude dropping. They are going to settle on the ocean's surface. Morgan's jaw tightened. Earth's weapons were useless against technology that could cross the stars. The combined might of every nation's military would barely scratch those shields. She had spent her entire career preparing for conflicts between nations. Nobody had prepared for this. "Where's the Atlantis?" she asked. Commander Hayes reported in 10 minutes ago. They are conducting deep-sea research near the Mariana Trench. 6,000 meters down. Get them on the line, now. 8,000 kilometers away, Commander Ryan Hayes stood in the control room of the USS Atlantis. The submarine was humanity's most advanced deep-sea research vessel. Its hull could withstand pressures that would crush ordinary submarines like tin cans. Right now, it drifted in the darkness near the deepest point on Earth. "Sir, we are receiving emergency broadcast from Pacific Fleet," Lieutenant Ben Foster announced. "Alien vessels entering Earth's atmosphere. Multiple contacts." Hayes moved to the sonar station. "Can we detect them?" "Negative. We are too deep. But sir, I am picking up something else. Movement below us. Very large." Dr. Kate Morrison looked up from her research station. The marine biologist had spent 15 years studying deep-sea life. She had seen creatures that most people thought were myths. But the reading on her screen made her blood run cold. "Ben, confirm that signature," she said quietly. Foster rechecked his instruments. "Confirmed. Single contact. Depth 9,000 meters. Size." He paused. "Dr. Morrison, this thing is over 300 meters long." "That's impossible," Hayes said. "The largest creature ever recorded was 30 meters. Morrison shook her head. "The largest creature we have recorded. Commander, we have explored less than 5% of the ocean floor. We have no idea what lives in the deepest trenches. The Atlantis shuddered slightly. Not from its own systems. Something had disturbed the water around them, on the surface. The first Zethian warship touched down on the Pacific Ocean. The massive vessel displaced millions of gallons of water. Waves spread out in all directions. The ship's landing thrusters created columns of steam where they touched the sea. Captain Vexner commanded the warship Destroyer of Worlds. His vessel had burned 20 cities on the last planet they conquered. Now it floated on an ocean of a primitive world. He found it boring. Establish defensive perimeter, Vexner ordered. Deploy sensors. Monitor for human military response. Captain, our underwater sensors are malfunctioning, his weapons officer reported. The readings make no sense. The water is interfering with the equipment, Vexner said. Ignore it. Focus on aerial threats. Beneath the Destroyer of Worlds, pressure sensors detected movement. Something large was rising from the depths. The Zethian shields were designed to stop missiles and energy weapons. They had never been tested against a living creature. 12 more warships settled onto the ocean surface across the Pacific. Each one sent out its own waves. Each one activated powerful engines that hummed with energy. Each one disturbed water that had been still for thousands of years. In the Mariana Trench, something ancient opened its eyes. Hayes received the connection to Admiral Morgan. Her face appeared on his screen, tight with stress. Commander, we have a situation. Alien warships have taken position on the ocean surface above you. We need the Atlantis to observe and report. Do not engage. Do not reveal your position. Understood, Admiral. But we have our own situation. Sonar is detecting massive movement in the trench below us. Something is rising. Morgan's expression changed. Rising? How massive? Morrison leaned into the camera. Admiral, this is Dr. Kate Morrison. We are tracking a biological contact over 300 meters in length. It is ascending rapidly. Current depth, 7,000 meters. It is heading directly for the surface. Directly for the alien ships? Yes, ma'am. Morgan was silent for a moment. Then she spoke carefully. Doctor, in your expert opinion, what are we dealing with? Morrison looked at her instruments. The creature was accelerating, rising faster than should be possible for something that size. I have no idea, Admiral. Nothing in our database matches this. But based on its depth and size, it evolved to survive in the most hostile environment on Earth. Pressure that would crush steel. Darkness. Cold. It is an apex predator from a world we barely understand. And it is heading toward the aliens? Yes, ma'am. They woke it up. Kralvax stood on his command deck, pleased with the deployment. His warships formed a perfect grid across the ocean's surface. Soon he would broadcast the terms of Earth's surrender. He would give the humans 1 day to comply. Then he would demonstrate his power by destroying one of their cities. Warlord. Captain Vexner is reporting unusual sensor readings, Tylish said nervously. I told you. It is just the water interfering. Sir, multiple ships are reporting the same readings. Something is moving beneath the fleet. Something very large. Krelvax walked to the sensor display. He stared at the reading. It made no sense. The size was wrong. The energy output was biological, not mechanical. But nothing biological could be that large. Get me visual confirmation from Vexner's ship, he ordered. The screen switched to the external cameras of the Destroyer of Worlds. The ocean surface looked calm, peaceful. Then the water began to glow. Bioluminescent light rose from the depths. Patterns of blue and green spread beneath the Zethian warship. The light grew brighter, closer. Captain Vexner, get your ship off the water. Rise to altitude immediately, Krelvax commanded. Vexner tried. The engines engaged. The ship began to lift. Then something wrapped around the hull. Something strong enough to stop a 3-kilometer warship from rising. Tentacles broke the surface. Each one was as thick as a building. They were covered in suckers the size of cars. Bioluminescent patterns ran along their length, pulsing with light. They wrapped around the destroyer of worlds and pulled. The warship tilted. Alarm screamed. Vexener shouted orders that nobody could follow. The shields meant to stop weapons did nothing against the crushing grip. Metal groaned. Then metal screamed. The destroyer of worlds went under in less than 3 minutes. Krelvax watched in horror as his warship vanished beneath the glowing water. The last transmission was Vexener screaming. Then silence. Warlord. Tylish's voice shook. Sensors are detecting similar contacts across the entire fleet. They are rising from the depths. Multiple creatures. Dozens of them. Across the Pacific Ocean, ancient predators rose to defend their territory. The invasion of Earth had begun. But the Zethian Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had invaded the oceans. The USS Atlantis hung in the darkness, its crew watching their instruments in stunned silence. Commander Ryan Hayes had spent 20 years in submarines. He had seen things most people never would. But he had never seen anything like this. "The creature is passing us," Lieutenant Ben Foster reported. His voice was barely a whisper. Distance 200 meters. "It is heading for the surface." On the sonar screen, the massive contact moved upward with impossible speed. The wake it created rocked the Atlantis despite the submarine's weight and stability systems. Hayes gripped his command chair as the vessel tilted. "All stop," he ordered. Silent running. "I don't want that thing to notice us." Dr. Kate Morrison stared at her screen. Her instruments were recording data faster than she could process it. The creature's biology was beyond anything she had studied. It generated its own electrical field. Its movement created pressure waves that registered on seismic monitors. It was less like an animal and more like a force of nature. "Commander, I am tracking 3 more contacts," Foster said. "Same size. Different locations. They are all heading for the surface. They are all heading for the alien ships." Hayes grabbed the communications console. "Get me Admiral Morgan. Emergency priority." The connection took 30 seconds. Morgan's face appeared on the screen, and Hayes could see the chaos behind her. Officers shouting. Alarms blaring. Screens showing data nobody understood. "Commander, what is your status?" "Admiral, we have 4 confirmed biological contacts heading for the surface. Each one is over 300 meters long. They are moving to intercept the alien warships. I think they were disturbed by the ships landing on the ocean." "Disturbed? Commander, are you telling me these creatures are attacking the aliens?" Morrison leaned forward. "Admiral, apex predators are territorial. The alien ships displaced massive amounts of water. They activated powerful engines. From the creature's perspective, something huge just invaded their hunting grounds." Morgan processed this information. "So they think the alien ships are threats?" "Or prey," Morrison said quietly. On the surface, Warlord Krelvax tried to maintain control of his fleet. 5 warships had gone silent. 5 ships pulled beneath the waves by creatures his sensors could barely track. The reports from the remaining vessels were identical. Massive tentacle beings rising from the deep. Bioluminescent patterns. Strength that could tear through reinforced hulls. "Get all ships to altitude," Krelvax commanded. "Rise above the ocean. These creatures cannot follow us into the air." 3 warships managed to break free from the surface. Their engines screamed as they climbed. Water poured from their hulls where tentacles had gripped them. Deep gouges marked where suckers had latched on. But they escaped. The others were not so lucky. Captain Zorath commanded the warship Silent Death. His vessel had been on the surface for less than an hour when the attack came. He felt the first impact through the deck. Something hit the bottom of his ship hard enough to register on internal sensors. "Shields at maximum," he ordered. "Weapons to defensive configuration. Identify the target." "Sir, the target is biological," his tactical officer reported. "It is directly beneath us. Multiple appendages are attempting to breach the hull." Zorath pulled up the external cameras. He wished he hadn't. The creature wrapped around his ship defied description. It had the general shape of a squid, but the size made comparison meaningless. Each tentacle was as long as his warship. The eyes were massive orbs that glowed with their own light. And it was intelligent. He could see that in the way it probed his ship, testing for weak points. "Fire all ventral weapons," Zorath commanded. The Silent Death unleashed its arsenal downward. Energy weapons designed to destroy cities fired into the water. Missiles launched. Kinetic rounds that could pierce armor plate shot into the depths. The weapons did nothing. Energy blasts dissipated in the water. Missiles moved too slowly, and the creature simply avoided them. Kinetic rounds might as well have been toys. The creature's hide was designed to withstand pressures that would flatten Zethian ships. Weapons meant for warfare were useless. Then the creature squeezed. The hull began to buckle. Zorath heard metal screaming. His shields failed. Not because they were damaged. They simply couldn't maintain integrity against physical pressure applied from all sides. The shields were designed for energy weapons, not crushing force. "Abandon ship," Zorath shouted into the communication system. "All hands to escape pods. Launch immediately." He made it to his own escape pod and launched. The pod shot away from the Silent Death, just as the warship's hull collapsed completely. The implosion was visible even through the water. The ship folded in on itself and vanished beneath the waves. Zorath's pod broke the surface and climbed into the sky. He looked down and saw the creature pulling the wreckage of his ship into the depths. It moved with casual ease, as if a 3-kilometer warship weighed nothing. In the Atlantis, Hayes and his crew listened to the chaos above them. The submarine's passive sonar picked up the sounds of warships being destroyed. Metal tearing, explosions, and underneath it all, sounds that no human had ever recorded. The calls of deep-sea predators communicating with each other. "They are hunting as a pack," Morrison said. She sounded awed and terrified at the same time. "Commander, these creatures are coordinating their attacks. They are intelligent." "How intelligent?" Hayes asked. "Intelligent enough to identify the alien ships as threats. Intelligent enough to work together to eliminate those threats. Maybe as intelligent as whales or dolphins. Maybe more." Another warship went down. The crew of the Atlantis heard it die. The sound echoed through the water for minutes afterward. "How many alien ships are left on the surface?" Hayes asked. Foster checked his instruments. 15, sir. Wait, make that 12. 3 more just went under." Admiral Morgan received reports from monitoring stations across the Pacific. The pattern was consistent. Wherever Zethian warships touched the ocean, massive creatures rose from the depths to attack them. The aliens were losing this battle badly. "Get me a secure line to the Zethian flagship," Morgan ordered. "Maybe we can end this before they do something stupid." "Admiral, they are broadcasting on all frequencies," her communications officer said. "They are demanding we call off our sea monsters." Morgan almost laughed. Almost. "Tell them we don't control the oceans. Tell them that if they want to survive, they need to get their ships out of the water. Now." The message was sent. Morgan watched her screens and waited. She saw 3 more Zethian warships rise from the surface and climb to high altitude. But others remained, either unable to break free or too damaged to move. on the Zethian flagship, Krelvax faced a reality he had never encountered. His fleet was being destroyed by animals. Not weapons. Not soldiers. Animals that lived in an environment his technology could not handle. Tylish. Explain to me how this is possible. He demanded that the navigation officer pulled up data on Earth. Warlord. This planet is classified as a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating in the Empire's database. I tried to warn you before we landed. I thought that rating referred to the human military. No, sir. It refers to the planet itself. Earth has pressures in its ocean depths that exceed our deepest mining operations. Temperatures that range from boiling to frozen. Gravity that would cripple weaker species. And life forms that evolved to thrive in those conditions. Krelvax stared at the reports. 12 warships lost. Hundreds of crew dead. All within 1 hour of landing on the ocean. The humans had not fired a single shot. They didn't need to. Their planet was defending itself. Get all remaining ships to high orbit, he ordered. Prepare to bombard the ocean from space. If we cannot survive on the surface, we will destroy these creatures from above. Tylesh hesitated. Warlord, I advise against that course of action. Why? Because we do not know what else lives in those oceans. We have only encountered a small number of these creatures. The humans have barely explored their own seas. There could be thousands of these predators, millions. We might be dealing with the smallest and weakest specimens. The thought made Krelvax pause. Surely nothing larger exists on a death world? I would not bet our fleet on it. In the Atlantis, Morrison was examining the data they had collected. The creatures that attacked the alien ships were impressive, certainly. But they were not the largest things in Earth's oceans. Not by far. Commander, we need to move, she said. If the aliens start dropping weapons from orbit, this entire area will become a kill zone. Hayes agreed. Take us deeper. Find a trench we can hide in. Then, plot a course away from the battle zone. Already on it, sir. But Commander, our deep sensors are picking up more movement. From the Mariana Trench. Something big is coming up. How big? Foster rechecked his readings. He hoped he was wrong. He wasn't. Sir, if this reading is correct, we are looking at something over 2,000 meters long. Morrison went pale. That's not possible. Neither were 300-meter squids until an hour ago, Hayes said. If something that big comes to the surface, this whole situation is about to get much worse. High above the Pacific, Krelvax prepared to give the order to bombard the ocean. He would kill every creature down there if necessary. The Zethian Empire did not retreat. Not from animals. Not from PRIMIT. IVES. His weapons officer entered the final coordinates. Targeting the deepest. The orbital bombardment struck the Pacific Ocean with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The explosion created a column of water that shot 500 meters into the air. The shock waves spread out in all directions. Every monitoring station on Earth registered the impact. Admiral Lisa Morgan watched from Pearl Harbor as the blast lit up her screens. She had hoped the aliens would listen to reason. They hadn't. Now they had made things infinitely worse. Get me damage reports, she ordered. And someone tell me if that hit anything important. Lieutenant Sarah Collins worked her station frantically. Reports came in from ships, submarines, and coastal installations. Admiral, the blast struck near the Mariana Trench. No human casualties. The shock wave damaged several research stations, but everyone is accounted for. What about the Atlantis? Commander Hayes reports they are secure. They went deep and avoided the worst of it. Morgan felt a small relief. Then, her tactical officer spoke up. Admiral, we have a problem. Seismic monitors are going crazy. That blast triggered something. Movement across every major ocean trench on the planet. The Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, the Arctic. Whatever those aliens woke up, it's not staying local. Morgan pulled up the global map. Red markers appeared across the world's oceans. Each one represented massive movement detected by underwater sensors. In less than 5 minutes, the situation had gone from a regional crisis to a global event. "Contact every submarine commander we have," Morgan said. "Tell them to go deep and stay quiet. And get me the UN. Every nation needs to pull their naval forces back to port. Now." Deep in the Mariana Trench, Commander Ryan Hayes fought to keep the Atlantis stable. The orbital blast had created pressure waves that reached even their depth. The submarine's hull groaned from the stress. But they survived. They were designed for this environment. The aliens were not. "Report," Hayes demanded. "Hull integrity at 92%, Foster reported. "Some minor damage to external sensors. We can fix it." Dr. Kate Morrison wasn't listening. She stared at her screen with an expression Hayes had never seen before. Pure terror mixed with absolute wonder. "Kate, what is it?" Hayes asked. She turned her screen so he could see. The sonar reading showed something rising from the deepest part of the trench. The scale made no sense. The computer kept recalculating, trying to find an error. There wasn't one. "Commander, something is coming up from the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Current depth, 10,000 meters. Size." She paused. "I don't even know how to describe it. The sonar is showing a single contact over 2 kilometers long." Hayes felt his mouth go dry. "That's impossible." "I know. But it's there. And it's angry." The creature rose through the water with purpose. It had existed for longer than human civilization. It had witnessed the rise and fall of species. It had survived extinction events that killed 90% of life on Earth. And now something had attacked its home. The orbital blast had been a mistake. A terrible, fatal mistake. On the Zethian flagship, Science Officer Pelrix examined the data from the bombardment. What he found disturbed him greatly. "Warlord Krelvax, you need to see this," he said. Krelvax was in no mood for more bad news. "What now?" "Our sensors detected the impact's effect on the ocean floor. The explosion triggered seismic activity along the entire Pacific Ring of Fire. But that is not the concerning part." "Then what is?" Pelrix brought up the biological scans. "The creatures we have been fighting? They are juveniles. Young specimens. The orbital strike has awakened something much older, much larger. It is rising from a depth our ships cannot reach." "How much larger?" "Our estimates suggest it is 7 times the size of the creatures that destroyed our warships." Krelvax felt something he had not experienced in decades of warfare. Fear. How is this possible? How can anything that large exist? "Warlord, these creatures evolved in pressures exceeding 10,000 atmospheres. That pressure would crush our strongest ships instantly. To survive in such an environment, they developed incredible strength and durability. They are, in effect, living warships. And we just attacked their home." The warlord looked at his remaining fleet. 18 warships left from the original 32. 18 ships against creatures that could tear them apart. And now something even larger was coming. "Can we kill it from orbit?" he asked. "Unlikely. Our bombardment barely damaged the ocean floor. These creatures live at those depths naturally. Orbital weapons will not penetrate deep enough to harm them. And if the creature reaches the surface..." Pelrix trailed off. "If it reaches the surface? Then we have no weapons that can stop it." Across Earth's oceans, similar scenes played out. In the Atlantic, a Zethian warship tried to establish a base near the mid-Atlantic ridge. The crew detected movement from the ocean trenches. They tried to flee. They didn't make it. A massive serpentine creature, over 400 meters long, rose from the depths and struck with the speed of a viper. The warship broke in half. In the Indian Ocean, 3 Zethian vessels formed a defensive triangle. They detected multiple contacts approaching from the depths. They opened fire with every weapon they had. The creatures ignored the attacks. One by one, the warships were pulled under. In the Arctic, 2 Zethian ships thought they were safe. The water was too cold, they reasoned. Nothing could survive in those frozen depths. They were wrong. Something massive moved beneath the ice. Something that had adapted to temperatures that would freeze Zethian blood solid. The ice shattered. The ships went down. Admiral Morgan coordinated the human response from Pearl Harbor. But there wasn't much humanity could do. This wasn't their battle. This was Earth defending itself. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Zethian flagship," Collins reported. "They want to talk. Put them through." Krulvak's face appeared on the screen. He looked different from the arrogant warlord who had arrived hours ago. Now he looked desperate. "Admiral Morgan, I am requesting immediate assistance." Morgan kept her expression neutral. "Assistance with what, warlord?" "Your planet's creatures are destroying my fleet. You must have some way to control them. Call them off." "We don't control the oceans," Morgan said simply. "We never have. We learned to respect them. Your ships invaded an environment you don't understand. The creatures that live there are defending their territory. You expect me to believe primitive sea life is intelligent enough to coordinate attacks? I expect you to believe the evidence in front of you. Warlord, Earth is a death world. Our planet tries to kill us every single day. We survive by understanding our environment and respecting what we can't control. You tried to dominate something you don't understand. This is the result." Krulvak's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Then what do you suggest?" "Get your ships out of the water. All of them. Rise to high orbit and stay there. The creatures will return to the depths once the threat is gone. And if I refuse? If I bombard the oceans until nothing lives?" Morgan's expression hardened. "Then you will wake things that make your current problems look minor. Warlord, we have barely explored our own oceans. We don't know what lives in the deepest trenches. But we do know that everything down there evolved to survive in conditions that would destroy your technology. If you keep attacking, you will learn exactly how much worse this can get." In the Atlantis, Hayes watched a massive creature rise. It was still 2 kilometers below them, but its presence dominated every sensor. The submarine felt tiny by comparison, insignificant. "Should we try to communicate with it?" Morrison asked. "Communicate how? We don't even know if it has intelligence we would recognize. It's responding to the alien attack. That suggests awareness, purpose, maybe even strategy." Hayes considered this. The creature was heading directly for the surface where the Zethian flagship waited. Not wandering, not hunting randomly. It knew where its target was. "Ben, can you track its projected course?" Foster ran the calculations. "If it maintains current speed and direction, it will surface directly beneath the alien flagship in approximately 20 minutes. 20 minutes until what?" Hayes wondered aloud. "Until we find out if these aliens are smart enough to run," Morrison said. Krulvak received a warning from his science officer. The massive creature would reach the surface soon. He had a choice: retreat and lose face before the Empire, or stand and fight something that might be unstoppable. "Warlord, I strongly advise immediate retreat," Palrick said. "Our weapons are ineffective against these creatures. Our shields cannot withstand their physical attacks. If that thing reaches us, we will share the fate of the other ships. The Empire does not retreat from animals. The Empire has never encountered anything like this." Krulvak looked at his remaining fleet. 18 ships. Thousands of crew. His pride wanted to fight. His tactical mind said run. For the first time in his military career, he didn't know what to do. Then his sensors detected something new. Energy readings from the depths. Not biological. Something else entirely. The massive creature was generating electromagnetic pulses. And those pulses were disrupting his ship's systems. Shields are fluctuating, his tactical officer reported. The creature is emitting some kind of natural EMP. Our defensive systems are failing. Can we compensate? Not at this range. And it's still rising. The closer it gets, the worse the interference will be. The decision was made for him. Krelvax could not fight an enemy. Fleet Commander Zixral arrived at Earth 3 days after the failed invasion. His vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. The reports he had received seemed impossible. No fleet under his command had ever retreated from a primitive world. But the evidence was undeniable. 14 warships destroyed. 80 more damaged. All by native creatures. "Get me Warlord Krelvax," Zixral commanded. The communication took several minutes to establish. When Krelvax's face appeared on the screen, Zixral saw something he had never witnessed before. One of his warlords looked defeated, broken. "Fleet Commander, I can explain," Krelvax began. "You will do more than explain. You will show me these creatures that supposedly destroyed a Zethian battle fleet." Krelvax transmitted the recorded data. Zixral watched the footage of massive tentacled beings pulling warships beneath the waves. He saw energy weapons fail. He saw shields collapse. He saw ships designed to conquer worlds reduced to scrap metal by animals. "This is unacceptable," Zixral said. "We do not retreat from wildlife. Return to the planet's surface. I am bringing reinforcements. We will bombard those oceans until nothing lives." "Fleet Commander, I strongly advise against that course of action. You are in no position to advise me of anything, Warlord. You failed. I will not. Prepare for planetary bombardment. Maximum yield. We will boil those oceans dry if necessary." The connection ended. Krelvax looked at Navigation Officer Tylesh. "He's going to get us all killed. Should we refuse the order? And face execution for cowardice? No, we follow orders. But stay at maximum altitude. When this goes wrong, we need to be able to run." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Morgan received intelligence reports about the approaching Zethian reinforcements. 20 additional warships. Enough firepower to devastate the planet's surface. But Morgan was less worried about the ships and more concerned about what they planned to do with them. "They are going to attack the oceans," she told her staff. "Orbital bombardment. Heavy weapons. They think they can destroy the creatures from space." Captain Greg Turner stood at the tactical display. His destroyer, the USS Defiance, had survived the initial invasion by pure luck. Now he was one of the senior naval officers dealing with the crisis. "Admiral, can those creatures survive orbital bombardment?" "I don't know. Dr. Morrison thinks the deep-sea species can survive almost anything. But if the aliens use enough firepower, they might kill them. Or they might make things much worse." "Worse how?" Morgan pulled up a map of Earth's tectonic plates. The Pacific Ring of Fire, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Every major ocean trench sits on fault lines. If the Zethians start dropping heavy weapons into those areas, they could trigger earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions. They might kill the creatures, but they will also devastate coastal cities worldwide. We need to stop them. With what? Our weapons cannot reach their ships. We have no leverage. "Yes, we do," a new voice said. Commander Ryan Hayes entered the command center. He looked exhausted. The Atlantis had surfaced 12 hours ago after 3 days underwater. Hayes had barely slept since. "Commander, what leverage do we have?" Morgan asked. "Information. The Zethians don't understand Earth. They don't know what lives in our oceans. But we do. We have centuries of research, thousands of expeditions. We know more about these creatures than anyone. If we shared that information, we might convince them that bombardment is a terrible idea. Why would they listen? Because their alternative is fighting something they can't beat. And if they start attacking the ocean floor, they won't just face the creatures they have already seen. They will wake things that have been sleeping for millennia." Morgan considered this. "You think there are larger creatures?" "I know there are. We detected something in the Mariana Trench that was over 2 kilometers long. And that might not be the biggest thing down there. Admiral, we have explored less than 5% of the ocean floor. We have no idea what else exists in the deepest trenches." Captain Turner pulled up sonar data from the past 3 days. "Commander Hayes is right. Our monitoring stations detected at least 7 distinct species during the attacks, sizes ranging from 100 meters to over 2,000. And those are just the ones that came to the surface. There could be dozens more that never left the deep water." Morgan made her decision. "Get me a secure channel to Fleet Commander Zixral. If he won't listen to reason, maybe he will listen to cold facts." The communication request was denied. Zixral had no interest in talking to humans. He had come to punish a planet, not negotiate with it. "All ships, prepare for bombardment," Zixral ordered. "Target the Pacific Ocean. Concentrate fire on the deepest trenches. I want nothing left alive down there." His tactical officer entered the coordinates. "Fleet Commander, our sensors are detecting unusual energy readings from the ocean depths. I don't care. Fire." The Zethian fleet unleashed hell. 40 warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy weapons designed to crack planets hit the Pacific Ocean. The explosions were visible from space. Columns of steam rose thousands of meters into the air. The ocean surface boiled. On the Atlantis, now safely in port, Hayes watched the bombardment through satellite feeds. Each blast registered on seismic monitors. The Pacific Ring of Fire lit up with activity. "This is going to trigger earthquakes," Dr. Kate Morrison said. "Major ones." She was right. Within minutes, the first tremors hit. Japan, California, Chile, the Philippines. Every coastal nation on the Pacific reported seismic activity. Small earthquakes that would have been minor under normal circumstances. But these were not normal circumstances. "Commander, we are detecting movement in the trenches," Morrison said. "Multiple contacts. They are responding to the attacks." Hayes pulled up the sonar data. The bombardment had awakened every major predator in the Pacific. But more than that, it had damaged the ocean floor. Cracks appeared in the tectonic plates. Volcanic vents that had been dormant for centuries suddenly became active. The aliens weren't just attacking creatures. They were attacking the planet itself. "Get me Admiral Morgan," Hayes said urgently. High above the Pacific, Zixral watched the bombardment with satisfaction. The ocean was being pounded into submission. Soon those creatures would be dead. The humans would surrender. The Zethian Empire would claim another world. Then his sensors detected something impossible. "Fleet Commander, multiple contacts rising from the impact zones," his science officer reported. "The creatures are not dying. They are attacking. That's impossible. Nothing can survive that level of bombardment." "Tell that to them, sir." The massive creatures rose from the depths. The bombardment had hurt them, certainly, but it had also enraged them. They came to the surface not to hunt, but to wage war. The first creature to reach the Zethian fleet was a serpentine being over 1 kilometer long. Its body was armored with scales that had evolved to withstand crushing pressure and superheated water from volcanic vents. The orbital bombardment had merely annoyed it. It struck the nearest warship with the force of a meteor. The impact alone destroyed the ship's engines. Then the creature coiled around the vessel and squeezed. The warship's hull collapsed like paper. All ships, evasive action, Zixral commanded. Return fire. The fleet scattered. Energy weapons fired continuously. But the weapons that had bombarded the ocean from safety were less effective at close range. The creatures moved through the water with impossible speed. They struck from below, from the sides, from above. They had learned from the previous battle. They knew where the ships were vulnerable. Captain Greg Turner watched from the USS Defiance as the battle raged above the Pacific. His destroyer was ordered to maintain position and observe. He felt helpless. The Zephian fleet was being destroyed, and there was nothing humanity could do to stop it. "Captain, we are receiving a distress call," his communications officer reported. "Zephian escape pods are entering the atmosphere. They are requesting permission to land." "Belay that." Admiral Morgan's voice came through the secure channel. "All ships are to retrieve any escape pods. The Zephians are about to learn the hard way that Earth's surface is just as dangerous as its oceans." Turner understood. The creatures weren't just attacking the warships. They were attacking anything that entered the water, including escape pods. On the Zephian flagship, Zixral faced the truth. He was losing, not to human weapons, not to advanced technology. He was losing to animals that had evolved on a world so hostile that his fleet's weapons were meaningless. "Fleet Commander, we have lost 8 ships," his tactical officer reported. 15 more are damaged. The creatures are coordinating their attacks. They are hurting us. Hurting us where? Toward the deepest trench. "Sir, I think they are trying to pull us into the water." Zixral looked at his tactical display. The officer was right. The creatures were working together, forcing the Zephian ships lower and lower. They were trying to bring the fleet down to where human technology failed, where Zephian shields couldn't function, where the crushing pressure would do what the creatures themselves might not accomplish. "All ships, ascend to high orbit immediately. Maximum speed." The surviving Zephian vessels climbed desperately. Behind them, the creatures pursued as high as they could. One warship, too damaged to accelerate quickly enough, fell behind. The crew watched in horror as a massive tentacled being. Fleet Commander Zixral did not believe in retreating. The Zephian Empire had conquered worlds for 10,000 years. They did not run from primitives or their pet monsters. But as he watched his sensors track something massive rising from Earth's ocean, doubt crept into his mind for the first time. "Science officer, confirm that reading," he demanded. The officer checked his instruments 3 times before responding. "Confirmed, Fleet Commander. Single biological contact. Current depth 8,000 meters. Length approximately 12 kilometers. It is ascending at steady speed. 12 kilometers. Zixral's flagship was only 3 kilometers long. This creature was 4 times larger than his biggest warship. And it was still rising. Time until surface contact? 90 minutes at current speed. Zixral opened the channel to Warlord Krelvax. "You said the largest creature you encountered was 2 kilometers long." "That was the largest we saw, Fleet Commander. We suspected there might be larger specimens in the deeper trenches. The humans tried to warn us. Why didn't you include that in your report? Would you have believed me?" Zixral closed the channel. He looked at his tactical display. 23 ships remaining, all damaged to some degree. Crew morale shattered. And now something the size of a small moon was coming to the surface. "Get me Admiral Morgan," he said quietly. The human appeared on his screen within seconds. She looked tired but determined. Behind her, Zixral could see dozens of officers working at monitoring stations. The humans were tracking the massive creature too. "Fleet Commander, have you reconsidered my suggestion?" Morgan asked. "I need information first." "What is that thing?" Morgan gestured to someone off-screen. A woman in civilian clothes appeared. Dr. Kate. Morrison looked at the Zethian commander with an expression that mixed fear and scientific fascination. "Fleet Commander, I'm Dr. Kate Morrison, marine biologist. What you're tracking is what we call a Leviathan. We don't have much data on them because they live at depths we cannot reach. But ancient human cultures have stories about massive sea serpents that could swallow ships whole. We thought they were myths. We were wrong. How can something that large survive? Earth's deep oceans have conditions that would destroy your ships. Pressure over 1,000 atmospheres. Temperatures near freezing. Complete darkness. The Leviathan evolved to thrive in that environment. Its body can withstand pressures that would crush your hulls. It can generate bioelectricity that disrupts electronic systems. And it's intelligent. Not like an animal. Like us. Zix will process this information. Can it be killed? I don't know. Conventional weapons are useless against deep-sea predators. They are too strong, too well-armored. And this thing is much larger than anything else in our oceans. Your orbital bombardment didn't kill the smaller creatures. I doubt it would even hurt the Leviathan. Then what do you suggest? Leave. Get your fleet out of Earth orbit. The Leviathan is territorial. If you're gone when it reaches the surface, it will return to the depths. But if you're still here, it will attack. And nothing in your arsenal will stop it. Commander Ryan Hayes watched the conversation from the Atlantis' communication room. He had spent the past hour reviewing every piece of data they had collected on the massive creature. What he found troubled him deeply. "Dr. Morrison, can I add something?" he asked. Morgan nodded. Hayes appeared on the screen next to her. "Fleet Commander, this is Commander Ryan Hayes, USS Atlantis. We were conducting research near the Mariana Trench when your fleet arrived. Our instruments detected something unusual about the Leviathan. It's not just rising randomly. It's tracking your flagship specifically. How is that possible? The Leviathan can sense electromagnetic fields. Your flagship has the strongest energy signature in your fleet. It probably sees your ship as the biggest threat. If you want your fleet to survive, you need to power down your flagship's main systems and move it away from Earth." Zix Rahl looked at his tactical officer. "Confirm that analysis." The officer ran quick calculations. "Commander Hayes is correct. If we power down to minimal systems, our energy signature will drop significantly. The creature might lose interest, or it might attack anyway." "Yes, Fleet Commander. That is possible." Admiral Morgan leaned forward. "Fleet Commander, I'm going to be honest with you. We don't fully understand these creatures. We've barely begun to explore our own oceans. But we do know one thing. They defend their territory with absolute determination. You invaded their home. You attacked them with orbital weapons. From their perspective, you're a threat that needs to be eliminated. Your only option is to leave." Zix Rahl looked at his remaining ships. Good crews. Loyal warriors. All at risk because he had underestimated a primitive world. Pride said fight. Survival said run. If I retreat, the Empire will see it as cowardice. If you stay, the Empire will see it as stupidity, Morgan replied. "Fleet Commander, there's no shame in recognizing when you're outmatched. Earth's oceans have been defending themselves for billions of years. Your empire is 10,000 years old. The Leviathan is older than your entire civilization. This isn't a battle you can win. On Earth's surface, people watched the skies. News broadcasts showed the Zethian fleet in orbit. Scientists provided analysis. Military experts offered predictions. But everyone understood the basic truth. Humanity's survival depended on creatures that lived in the depths of the ocean. Creatures that most people had thought were legends until a week ago. Captain Greg Turner stood on the deck of the USS Defiance. His ship was positioned to retrieve any escape pods that entered the atmosphere. But he hoped it wouldn't come to that. He hoped the aliens were smart enough to leave. "Captain, the Leviathan is at 5,000 meters depth," his sonar operator reported. "Still rising? Still tracking the alien flagship." Turner picked up his radio. "All coastal cities, this is Captain Turner, USS Defiance. If that creature surfaces, we're gonna see waves. Big ones. Emergency services need to be ready to evacuate low-lying areas." Acknowledgments came back from around the Pacific: Japan, California, Australia, the Philippines. Every coastal nation was preparing for the possibility of tsunamis created by something 12 kilometers long, breaking the ocean surface. In the Atlantis' monitoring station, Dr. Morrison watched the Leviathan's ascent with mixed emotions. As a scientist, she wanted to study this incredible creature. As a human being, she was terrified of what it might do. "How fast can it move once it reaches the surface?" Hayes asked. "I have no idea. Commander, everything about this creature defies what we know about marine biology. Something that large shouldn't be able to move at all. But it's ascending at 50 meters per minute. That suggests muscles and systems we can't even imagine. Best guess. Can't reach the Zethian flagship?" Morrison did quick calculations. The flagship is in low orbit, roughly 200 kilometers altitude. The Leviathan obviously can't fly. But if it can generate the bioelectric pulses we detected from the smaller creatures, it might be able to disrupt the flagship's systems from the surface. And if the aliens try to descend to attack it, they'll be within reach of its physical capabilities. So they need to leave. Yes, they really need to leave. Fleet Commander Zixral made his decision. "All ships, prepare to exit Earth's orbit. Set course for the nearest Zithian outpost. We are withdrawing from this system." Kravak's voice came through the communication channel. "Fleet Commander, are you certain? The Empire will see this as defeat. The Empire can see it however they want. I am not sacrificing my fleet to a creature that exists outside our understanding of biology. Retreat is not defeat when the alternative is annihilation." The Zethian warships powered up their faster-than-light drives. It would take several minutes to build up enough energy to jump. Minutes they might not have. "The creature has reached 2,000 meters depth," the sensor operator reported. "Estimated time to surface, 12 minutes. Zixral watched the countdown. His ships needed 15 minutes to charge their jump drives. They were going to cut this very close. On Earth, Admiral Morgan held her breath. The Leviathan was moments from the surface. The Zethian fleet was preparing to jump. Everything depended on timing. "Come on," she whispered. "Leave. Just leave." The Leviathan broke the surface of the Pacific Ocean. The displacement created waves that radiated out for hundreds of kilometers. Coastal warning systems activated across the Pacific Rim. People evacuated to higher ground. The creature's head rose above the water. Its body stretched behind it, most of it still submerged. Bioluminescent patterns covered its scales, pulsing with light. Its eyes, each the size of a house, scanned the sky above. It saw the Zethian fleet. "Jump drives at 90%, the Zethian sensor operator reported. "We need 3 more minutes." "We don't have 3 minutes," Zixral said. "Divert all available power to the jump drives. Life support to minimum. Weapons offline. Everything goes to the drives." The flagship's lights dimmed. The crew worked in near darkness. But the jump drive charge increased faster. The Leviathan opened its mouth and released a sound. Not a roar. Not a call. Something else entirely. A vibration that traveled through the water, through the air, through space itself. On Earth, seismic monitors registered it as an earthquake. In orbit, the Zethian ships felt their hulls vibrate. It's generating a massive electromagnetic pulse.